fibroids are benign growths that form in or around the uterus. They're made of muscle cells and other tissues that grow in and around the wall of the uterus or womb. Now, though fibroids are common and affect many women of reproductive age, they often go undiagnosed because we attribute their symptoms to other causes. Now, this underlines the importance for women to understand what fibroids are and how they can be treated. July is Fibroid Awareness Month, which aims to bring awareness to this critical women's health condition. Joining us on the show to discuss tackling fibroids in Nigeria and enlightening the public about the health condition is Dr. Abayomi Ajayi, fertility physician. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the program.
Morning, Jimba. It's great to be here.
I'm a little bit nervous. They were talking about having more children. Now we have a fertility physician.
We take on every subject here. We've done family planning this morning for Mr. Ikpeyong. But fibroids, serious matter. About 80% of women before the age of 50, we here have a fibroid to one degree or the other. So, and it's not just the women that are affected, also the husbands, because when a situation develops. But the issue is about public enlightenment. Some people don't know how to go about the treatment, how to even note the symptoms. Some people even say that there are traditional alternative ways that are far better than orthodox medicine. If you could just help us explain this major health problem.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Abati. Fibroids are, like you said, they're very common, especially among blacks. Okay. And like you said, up to 70 to 80% of our women before age 50 can have fibroids. But the problem is that we're not talking enough about it. And maybe because, again, about 50% of women with fibroids have no symptoms. So it's just a lump under your tummy, and you know that we don't do annual physical, especially the younger people don't do annual physical in this country. So it most of the time is an incidental finding. Either when they get pregnant, they have to do a scan and they suddenly discover, or for those who do annual physical, then you see that they have fibroids. But when he has symptoms, so with that in mind, it means by the time you're having symptoms, you've harbored the fibroid for quite a while. Okay. So by the time they have symptoms, which are things that affect their life, quality of life, like you might be bleeding heavily, or you might be bleeding irregularly. What I mean by this is that you can't even predict when you're going to bleed. Okay. And for some, they will have pain, okay, especially during their menstrual period. And sometimes also when they have sex, okay. And for some, they have when they pee frequently because the fibroid is pressing on the bladder. The fibroid, like you said in your intro, is in the uterus, and the uterus has neighbors like the bladder, like the rectum, so it could also cause constipation. Most of the time when people pay attention to fibroids in this country is when they think it's impacting their fertility. So when there is infertility, and they now come, and we have this notion that fibroids causes infertility, which is not totally true. It is associated with infertility. It does not cause, well, let me take that back. It rarely causes infertility, but it's associated with infertility. So if you look at the risk factors, one of the risk factors is if you don't have kids. Okay, age is number one, maybe. If you don't have kids, then there's some personal characteristics, obesity. There are risk factors for fibroids. Alcohol usage is a risk factor for fibroids. And then, but the most important, family history. When either mother or sister has fibroids, then you are predisposed to fibroids.
Now, I'd love for us to differentiate between the different types of fibroids, because I think one of the issues with women specifically is there's a lot of confusion in the space. Some will find out that they have a fibroid and it's benign. You can live with it. You don't have to do anything about it. Some will have one that has to be operated. At what point, how can somebody, before you go to the doctor, how do you know that, these are the symptoms or this is something that needs to be resolved, and this is why this is the conditions or the environment that mean that a fibroid should be removed?
Okay, thank you so much. Right now, you don't have to remove fibroids all the time. You know, 20 years ago, it's always, you must have surgery. But right now, there are many treatment options. Okay, so the first thing is to make a diagnosis. Now, once you made a diagnosis, even if you don't have symptoms, it's something that you might need to follow up. Okay, you don't have to have surgery. You don't have any symptoms. There are 4 things that doctors consider in looking for how to treat particular fibroids. You know, your age. Do you have symptoms? Do you still want to have children? And then where exactly is the fibroid in your uterus? Just, you were talking about types of fibroids, okay? There are 3 types of fibroids. One that grows where the baby should be, inside the cavity of the uterus. That is the most troublesome fibroid. Fortunately, it's the least common, okay? Now, the second one is the one that grows in the muzzle of the uterus, okay? That is probably the most common type of fibroid, and the one that grows outside. Now, we've seen that it's not everyone that you even need to do anything about. Even if you have fertility issues, the only one that we're sure you must do something about is the one that grows where the baby should be, okay? But the one that grows in the muzzle, we've said, look, if it's not up to 6 cm, you probably don't need to do anything about it, especially if it's not giving you trouble, okay? The same thing.
Can it complicate pregnancy in some instances?
It could, okay, but we're not too sure. We can't say for certain it will, okay, but it could. So most of the time, when you have a fibroid in the muzzle of the uterus, which is not more than 5-6 cm, which is not up to that, we can still leave alone, okay? Because many people get pregnant, give birth with fibroids in place and without any problems at all. Yes, there could be some problems in pregnancy, maybe something we call age degeneration, where the fibroid outgrows its blood supply and the woman can have some pain. Okay, that is a possibility. But it's not, that's what we're trying to say now, that it's not every fibroid that you need to just run after. Especially now, there are now things that you can do that are non-invasive. Okay, there are treatments now that are not completely laser. There's something called HIFU, high intensity focused ultrasound treatment, which is, it's as simple as you lying on the bed and the doctor fools around with his things. The doctor doesn't even lay his hand on you on the day of treatment because you have done MRI, we can see it's a software. We can see the fibroid on the software and we can bond the fibroid with ultrasound waves converted to energy, the heat energy. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
We have one in Lagos, we have one in Abuja. We've done over 700 patients in Nigeria. So, and that is one of the things. What we're saying is that it's not everybody that can be treated through that way, but we have to choose the ones that can be treated. The good thing is that there's no hospital admission. It's a day case. You go home that very day. There is no anesthesia involved. There is no blood transfusion involved. You go back to work.
Almost immediately. Doctors, real quickly,
Yeah.
as we wrap up, can you explain the thing behind this thing they say that if you have fibroid, don't remove it except you want to have a child immediately?
Yeah, it's a myth. You know, we look at, we've been associating fibroids and fertility together. Most of the time there is no causal relationship. It is associated, okay. In those days, we used to say that, okay, fine, but if the woman is bleeding to death, are you going to wait until she wants to have a baby? Now, again, there's so many things available. You can store your eggs now, even if you are not ready to have a baby. So the medicine has progressed tremendously in the last maybe 20 years, even in Nigeria.
So what's the advice out there for any woman that's got fibroid? Is there anything they can do quickly? I mean, the 3 quick steps.
Well, the first thing you need to know that you have fibroid, so diagnosis is important. When you have diagnosis, then you must talk to people who know about, there's so many people now who are not even gynecologists who say they are operating on fibroids. And that's why sometimes this thing called mammectomy or the operation for fibroids has become so notorious because almost anybody can say, I can open the abdomen and close it back. And then sometimes it can really go south, yeah.
So get a good gynae, check yourself constantly.
Exactly.
And what about for fertility options, women that are older? that might not be able to go through the stress of carrying the baby? What are options? We've heard surrogacy is fast becoming a thing now. Can you just speak us through all that?
Well, surrogacy is here in Nigeria, but I always tell people that because there are so many murky things about surrogacy, that unless you really need surrogacy, don't dabble into it.
What if the woman is old and she can't carry herself and she's had multiple IVF and it's failed?
Rufai, let me tell you, the age, actually is not a contraindication to IVF. There are ethical issues in countries. For example, some countries will say, if you're over 60, you can't carry, they don't want you to do IVF for obvious reasons, that the baby that you're going to have, who is going to look after the baby, the baby is 10, you are 70. Those are social issues. But a 70-year-old woman, if she's healthy, can carry a pregnancy. And that has been documented, where a grandmother has actually had a baby.
How about surrogacy? You said surrogacy is murky.
Yeah.
Okay, the only thing I've heard is ethical issues. What is murky? Because I've seen 1 or 2 interviews.
It's murky because of there's still no legal guidelines in Nigeria. So there are a lot of things that people are doing out of self-help now.
Okay.
So until we really get it right, everybody says I'm a surrogacy agency, and they're not even medically inclined at all. They're just looking at only the business part of it. We are beginning to have hostels for surrogates in Nigeria. So it's that's why I said it's murky, but it's a recognized way of having babies, but we probably need to have some regulation surrounding it.
But babies that come through surrogacy, do they have special characteristics? Because some people, when they behave, you wonder.
It's nature and nurture, All of us is nature and nurture. Yeah, so.
Thank you, Doctor.
Dr. Ajayi, thank you so much for this informative session.